Hello, and welcome back to Therapist Plays Disco Elysium. Okay, so originally these were two recordings of me first trying to do the encounter with the payphone, um, but it didn't end up happening just due to not having a skill point and not passing the check. So um, I'm just going to combine those two recordings into one long one. Yeah, it's safe to say this didn't quite go as I expected it would, and I think that's probably exactly what the game wanted. Yeah, there's so much to unpack here between what's going on with Harry while he experiences this very confronting thing, and psychologically, what are the kinds of approaches that I think would be effective to deal with someone who is going through this specific problem. There's a ton to get into here, so we're just going to jump right in. So sit back, relax, and watch me get traumatized. Hello, and welcome back. Okay, now that we have Kim back in our possession, it's time to do some actual investigating. We required his supervision to do a couple of different things. I guess we should go take a look at the gentleman we found at the dock. Or maybe we should check out this payphone.
A metal payphone under a yellow plastic dome. You could use it to call someone, unless you're out of change.
Well, we have money. Let's pick up the handset.
You hear the tone. The machine is inoperable.
Put 10 cents in and dial a random number. Okay.
Calling. Still calling. This feels wrong. Should you be doing this?
So Inland Empire, again, it continues to fill that role that I've been talking about, how it's like trying to protect us from our past, it feels like. Like there's been plenty of opportunities. Like whenever we touch the ledger, whenever we start telling someone about our past or past relationships, Inland Empire is usually the one who chimes in.
End of tone. Someone picks up.
Which is interesting because like Inland Empire seems invested in us transforming or committing to the transformation. And is kind of like the voice that's driving us to do things like shave your beard, you know, help these kids, like do things differently than you did before. The more you interact with your old self or things you did before, the likelier it is to like keep you attached to that person and maybe turn back into them.
Pierre, is that you, Pierre?
Knows it might be. What's Pierre like?
So nice of you to find the time to call me. It gets so lonely. Even the animals have died.
Oh my god, everything is so depressing in this world. What kind of pets did you have?
Are you sure you're Pierre? Your voice, it's different. There. Chrysanthemum.
Her voice is drowned in white noise. Sounds like waves washing a beach, growing in volume until the call suddenly disconnects.
Where is she? How do we find her and help her out? This poor lady.
You get a sinking feeling. It makes you look if Lieutenant Kitsuragi overheard you. To your relief, he did not.
Let's try again.
Calling. Still calling. Again? Seriously? Someone with a masculine voice picks up.
Hello, Gerard speaking.
This is such a mean thing to say. I'm just gonna say it because it sounds funny. No, I can't. I have to commit to the roleplay. We wouldn't say that. Sorry, wrong number.
Don't worry about it, buddy. Happens to all of us. You have a nice day now.
Look at that. Gerard wasn't a douche. He sounds so aggressive. Have a nice fucking day.
Phone hanging up. Disconnect tone.
Okay, let's see.
Calling.
I feel like I'm pulling a gacha machine.
Calling. Calling. Still calling. Still calling.
Stop calling me, man.
Someone picks up. The voice on the other end is slightly hysterical.
I'll get you your money, alright? I just need till tonight. Let me work.
Where are we getting these numbers from? We could deliver this to Whirling in Rags. No, we can't. We can't. We could all be a bit kinder to each other, don't you think? Consider your debt paid, my friend. I mean, it would be nice to say this, but then I fear that whoever this is will go around thinking that their debt is paid, and then someone will come after them. Seems a bit cynical to do that. Let's just be honest. We're a sorry, honest cop. We tried. We tried to be a bad cop. We tried to be an asshole. It's just not in my nature. I even feel bad like making a character do stuff like that, which is why I have like such a strong reaction whenever we like lose an encounter, like we lost with Kuno or something. Like I'll tell you guys, this stuff makes me uncomfortable sometimes. Like I don't like to play most violent video games that involve like hurting people. I don't like first person shooters and stuff like that. I can only play them if I'm shooting like aliens or like monsters. I don't, it's not a fantasy to me to like run around shooting people. Like that's not like exciting to me. And it makes me feel uncomfortable to do it even in like a role play capacity, which is why I've gotten so deep into this like role play. You know, I'm pushing my own boundaries a little bit because I do make Harry do stuff that I personally wouldn't do. In fact, lots of things, but I'm trying to like get into his mind of what he would do. And there are times here where, you know, exactly as Inland Empire's, we're under that influence of like trying to be a different person. Maybe before we would have taken advantage of this person, or we would have fucked around with them because we thought it was funny. But in this case, we're just gonna play it straight. You seem to be in a bit of trouble. Maybe I can help you. I'm a police officer.
The phone gets hanged up fast as lightning. All you hear is a little shuffle of nylon as the hand moves on the other end. Disconnect tone.
Oh, okay. A single lets you know the lieutenant is ready to move now. Let's try again.
Calling.
I'm tired.
The man answers fast this time. His voice is hoarse from cigarettes. You hear typing in the background. What are you tired of?
Writing. I hate writing so much. But I have to get back to it.
The man disappears with a sigh. You do not hear the customary disconnect tone, just silence in the handset. The machine is still waiting for you to dial a number.
I love the game's approach to stuff like this. Like even as far back as well, the tie obviously, but that feels like a special case. But even like what was it? There was like a little stand, like a little advertising stand or something, a brochure that we were like, this is my friend, or we like personify stuff weirdly. Some part of that is Harry's perception of the world, I think, but it's also part of like just the prose, the writings, like the way it communicates that there is something about this payphone that is drawing us in, almost as if it is like intentionally doing so. I like that.
Seems like it did not have time to swallow the coin. This sometimes happens. Lucky you. The call went too fast for the payphone to register. You can still make a new one without paying.
Okay. White Morning. I don't even remember what that is. Sorry, cop. Guess we'll dial it. 72%.
You close your eyes and feel your finger move on the rotary dial. You start with 005, as before, followed by 7 digits at random. The last one makes the silence turn into a ring. It's calling, still calling, still. Time keeps passing. In the distance, seagulls squawk. No one is home at this number. But the coin, it's still in there. You find yourself thinking, what were you trying to achieve by closing your eyes? Did you want your muscle memory to take over and call somewhere? Where?
My first instinct is to say our
His
ex-partner.
own heart. It's really time to stop this now.
We don't have any skill points, so we'll have to come back for this one. I guess I should have checked if we have any interfacing stuff to where. We'll come back to it. I think that there's part of that narrative to explore still a little bit, and now we do have a sword, which has given us a lot of confidence, and we've gone on a date. So narratively, it would make sense to me to, I guess in a sense, relapse. Relapse is a term that we use in addiction work, obviously, but it's a word that we also use in behavioral health sometimes to mean a return to a previous pattern of behavior. Could be anything, right? If you're trying to quit eating sugar or whatever, and you find yourself doing well for a while, and then you, I don't know, like gorge on an apple pie or something. Technically, we might call this a lapse, a one-time return. But if after that pie you like are eating a pie every day and ice cream and all this stuff, then we would call this a relapse. And for Harry, I feel like the further he gets into this new personification and these new character traits, new virtues and values, we've struggled with relapse before in terms of our substance use, but also our demeanor. Like we've relapsed on, I'm going to be a fucking asshole then if that's the way the world want to deal with me stuff. I would call this more of a lapse because it didn't last very long. As soon as we like got over here and saw the motor carriage, we kind of broke out of that. But his newfound like self-esteem that he's gained a little bit from doing good deeds and having someone appreciate spending time with him, like Lillian, it may convince him that there is a certain kind of resilience to that past trauma, which is sometimes why relapse happens. We feel like we have developed the resilience that we can moderate this previously uncontrolled behavior. And so we'll start getting a little loose with the boundaries, right? Not always, but sometimes this does happen, especially, like I said, in the addiction space where we get some skills, we spend some time sober, and it's there is that justification layer of like, well, maybe I can just do it a little bit. I've learned a lot of skills to be able to manage this. I know why I'm using. So it would make sense to me for someone like Harry who is eager to change, but also eager to test his own limits, to be in this kind of headspace where he says, I'm changing my perception about myself. I'm changing my appearance. I've got my emotional support detective with me. I've learned to respect myself. People are starting to respect me. I feel a little more comfortable with intimacy than I did before. Now I am resilient enough to face my past and call my ex-wife. That to me would make a lot of sense. I'm not saying that that would be a good idea. Clearly, Inland Empire does not think so. It's our gut feeling. Yeah, I mean, this is the voice that lets us like, yeah, personify things, but in some ways it's like personification of our own internal fears as well. It is the fear that maybe we are not ready coming out to speak to us and saying, hey, slow the fuck down, you're not ready for this yet. But we don't always listen to that, which is part of the problem, right? So we'll return to that after we get a point in interfacing, which I see now that, yeah, I could have put some more clothing on. So it's pretty guaranteed we'll get that check. But we're not that far off from leveling up, so we'll see what happens. I don't know if it'll be this episode, but let's see what we get from... Let's investigate this.
There's some tear, an empty cigarette.
We already investigated the tear.
A man lies on the boardwalk, his limbs bent and neck turned at an unnatural angle. Right next to him is an empty bottle of spirits. In his cramped hand, a chewing gum wrapper.
Hold on.
Ah, thank God I have Kim here with me. my voice of reason and insight. The lieutenant leans over the corpse and examines his face. Two glassy eyes stare back at him.
Looks like he's been dead for a while. I'm surprised no one found him before you came along.
He stands up and shivers as a gust of wind blows through his bomber jacket. Who is this man?
Looks like one of the locals. He'd have to know this was to come here. You don't just walk over here.
He looks south, the way you came.
But that's just a lazy assumption. What do you think?
dead
Kim,
working
a lazy
person
assumption.
with a bottle in his hand. Don't deceive yourself. You know who this is.
Oh, is this the fucking lady who's standing outside Annette's bookshop? Whose, like, husband is missing? It's a working class woman's missing husband, dead on the boardwalk.
The woman you met at the book stand? Why do you think it's her husband?
The library card. That's where she's standing. The leather jacket matches her description perfectly. Let's go with the... Well, there could be lots of people who... Let's go with the description.
The bright blue lining? Well, he's definitely someone's husband.
Oh, we got our skill point. Okay. Maybe we'll... I guess we'll go back and do the encounter with the payphone. What do you think happened here?
Death by misadventure. He slipped and fell through the boardwalk. A truly unfortunate accident. If it wouldn't have been for that bench, he'd be alive.
Oh. So he fell here. Do you think he was drunk? Do you think he was drunk, Harry? Someone should be held responsible for this broken boardwalk. It's dangerous.
They'll seal this place off after the news reaches the coalition officials. I doubt that they have enough resources to actually repair the boardwalk.
That's a shame.
Not that sealing it off would keep anyone away. All it does is keep the city council's hands clean.
He smiles sourly. Kim has the perfect balance of empathy and wisdom of reality, where he agrees that it should be sealed off, but he, in reality, knows that it won't be. And he knows the reason why. What about the kebab?
What about it? The deceased ate some kebab. It's probably from a nearby place, maybe in the parks.
Sometimes a kebab is just a kebab.
I feel attacked. There is a common critique of psychologists. I can't remember who said this, but there was someone who said of Sigmund Freud, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. And, well, there's all kinds of connotations behind that. Sigmund Freud had lots of, let's say, leaps of assumptions about what things meant, of why people do things, and they are often of a sexually proclivative nature. These days, that critique is levied like at just, anyone who is reading too much into something, which is sometimes what people say I do. But look, like that's what I'm here to do, okay? Is read way too much into shit and make wild inferences about what they mean. I don't do this in my real work. 40 episodes deep into this series, I should really not have to clarify this again, but the way I apply my knowledge here in this setting on this game is not one-to-one with how I do it at work. Like, my job is very serious. This is like for fun for me. And yeah, you won't find me like doing dumb shit like that in my in my actual work. Like, I take it a lot more seriously. But this is my escape from my very serious work. So just allow me to be a goofball sometimes. It's probably not related to the lynching. Let's just see what he says, though.
No, I don't see anything that points in that direction. For now, let's treat this case as a simple, albeit sad, accident, unrelated to the murder case.
I agree with that observation.
Yes, but what if there's a killer on the loose? 2 suspicious deaths in such a short time frame.
We should consider the possibility that we're dealing with a sequence killer here. Oh, that's fun. Sequence killer was the prototype term for serial killer. You're right. Connecting it with the lynching is a stretch.
Without any further evidence, yes.
Do you think he was drunk?
Oh, yes.
I knew he would say that. What about alcohol poisoning and liver failure?
Some symptoms of acute alcohol poisoning could have definitely played a role here. Severe confusion, respiratory depression, unpredictable behavior. But I think that death arrived through head trauma, not liver failure.
Right, conclude.
It does seem to be a pretty straightforward misadventure, although there's still a question of identifying the body.
What should we do with him?
From where I stand, I can see 2 options. We either take the case and follow the leads to identify the body on our own, or we report back to the station and leave this for our colleagues to handle.
Well, we found him. We should finish this. What about a field autopsy?
A field autopsy isn't necessary if the cause of death doesn't appear to be criminal, and this looks like a simple accident to me.
Is it criminal that the lack of infrastructure, safety may have led to this gentleman's unfortunate demise?
I'd say we should just write down head trauma in the autopsy report and leave it at that. It would save us at least 2 hours of unnecessary work.
It's very proficient of you, Kevin. You're right, I don't see anything criminal here. Let's leave it at that. Let's go with that.
Good call. The guys at processing can take care of the rest.
Look, we gotta take the case.
All right. We should first examine the library card you found. Then we can call the station from my kinema. Let them know we are taking the case.
Okay, we'll follow up with this. In the next episode, I will go do the phone call again. I'll just drop that point in interfacing. Our interfacing is really bad. Well, I'll just hang on to it for now. Let's check out that library card. Yes.
The library card is folded into 2 and still slightly wet to the touch. The front side reads, Central General Public Library Card, issued to Billy Mijon, expires July 53.
Okay.
Billy is a unisex name. Could be the deceased or his family member.
When the fuck did my logic get so high? Wait a second. Why is my logic so high? I feel like we're that was one of our like weakest skill points. Maybe I have a bunch of clothes on that are making us logical. Because it's been chiming in a lot lately. Let's look inside.
Whoever owns this card is an avid reader. You find a list of books written in blue pencil. Radio thriller. Stand a little less between me and the sun. The last one in the list is The Glinting Curve by M. Theobald. A library stamp indicates that the book has been returned.
Okay.
Most of these titles seem to be in the sci-fi genre.
Ah,
Some too.
sci-fi thing. Let's look at the back.
If lost, please return the card to the library. Dial 005 02 55211 or visit us at Moreau Street.
Good. We should give them a call from my kinema. See if we can learn anything about Billy Maison.
Good idea. There was plenty of information here to go by.
Okay, let's do that. I'm gonna quickly jump over there. How do I travel? Isn't there a way to like fast travel? I feel like there was. Maybe not. I feel like I traveled before, fast traveled. Okay, well, I'll just have to use the magic of editing. We've got some gentleman inspecting Kim's kinema, though. What's going on here?
That's one brutal motor carriage.
Okay, this is some interesting apparel.
If I were a real skull now, I'd jack it, paint it in palm tree livery, then bottom light it, neon style.
Okay.
A snazzy shit-ripped skullmobile like this would make a fine trophy. We could, like, hang fucking shrunken heads from the side mirrors. Cops' heads. Scary tribal shit.
My first impression, these gentlemen are not quite as cool as the, ravers on the ice in the tent.
Yeah, tribal shit. A cop carriage like this would have proper skull value.
These guys are a little too, like, earnest in their, like, edginess. Whereas I feel like the the young lads in the ice tent were, like, not exactly trying to be cool, but they were just cool by default.
While I appreciate the interest you take in my brutal motor carriage, I have to stop you right there. The RCM takes threats directed at its property seriously.
Get him, Kim!
It's just theoretical work, Copper. No basis in reality. Man, if we were certified skulls right now...
I can't wait to learn what their tragic backstory is.
Was it a good idea on the lieutenant's part to get into this? Don't even answer that. Just leave. You can always come back later.
We don't really have time for this. I'm looking at my clock because I do have to go. Which is why I don't want to do the payphone encounter right now, because I'm not sure I would have the time to really dig into it. We can always come back later. Yeah, okay. We'll return to that one. I'm sure they have a tragic backstory and they're someone's favorite characters, so I don't mean to shit on them, but...
Inside, you see a set of steering levers, a radio microphone, a pull-out toolbox, and the soft glow of the fuel preheater gauge.
Let's get the radio.
This is Precinct 57. How may I assist you?
I need to report a body on the Martinez boardwalk.
One moment. Can you please describe the body? Age, sex, cause of death?
An unidentified middle-aged man, height 170 to 175 centimeters, dark hair, medium build. Looks like he slipped, fell through a hole in the boardwalk and hit his head against the metal bench.
We suspect he might have been inebriated when he fell. There were bottles all around him, and traces of vomit on his shirt.
Any signs of violence?
There might be a sequence killer on the loose. No, it seems like it was an accident.
No field autopsy necessary. What about his belongings? Did you examine his clothes?
He was wearing boots, trousers, and an old leather jacket with a bright blue lining. I found a library card from his pockets.
Any information on the library card?
It's from Central Jamrock Public Library. It belongs to someone named Billy Mejean.
Good. You have a lead. Do you and Lieutenant Kitsuragi want to take the case, or should I assign it to someone else?
We're taking the case.
I have assigned the case to Lieutenant Kitsuragi. Please follow up on this library lead to identify the man. We'll send someone to take the body to the morgue. That's all for now. Thank you for reporting in. Is there anything else I can do for you?
I mean, why are you assigning it to just Kim? Why not both of us? Is it because he's vastly more responsible than us? Or is it just because this is his precinct? That's the thing. Our character is liable to get unreasonably upset by details that really shouldn't upset him. Connect me to the library.
I'm afraid they're closed.
Shit.
It says here that the library is open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
We should try again during business hours.
10 a.m. Okay.
Anything else, Detective?
I think that's it.
57th, over and out.
In the cabin, you see a set of steering levers.
Okay. Okay, yeah, we're gonna take that case. Maybe I got time to go inform. Oh, she's not here now. She may be inside. No, she's not inside. Okay. Well, I guess we have to find his wife now. Okay. Next episode will be a big one, let's say, because I'm going to go back and do the payphone encounter. Now that I have a skill to dump into interfacing, and I'm sure that we will be able to pass it because we're gonna max out our interfacing points with our clothing as well. So I'm really curious to see where this goes, because yeah, I do imagine, just based on some comments and my own detective work, that Harry will probably try to call his ex-wife, because there's a bit of unfinished business there. This was something I didn't get to talk about when I was talking to Klasia, just because it didn't fit the moment, but the Gestalt therapy perspective is all about dealing with like unfinished business. And I think that's kind of the perspective that I'm gonna put on that subject when we return here, which is why it is important to try to deal with unfinished business, how you might safely go about that, and what the process of therapy usually looks like when you have someone like Harry who probably feels like, okay, I'm getting the sense that I could be in a healthy relationship, that I can trust people, that I can like myself, right? I'm getting the sense, but there is something that I must address first before I fully feel capable in that. And it's dealing with this unfinished business of like the relationship I destroyed or was kicked out of. We don't know exactly what happened. But because we were probably drunk or inebriated or whatever, we feel like there's still stuff we have to say to this person. Even if it is just, I'm sorry, and can you tell me why now that I'm sober and willing and able to hear this feedback. That may be a part of why we want to do that as well. It's not about getting back with them. It's not about torturing ourselves. It's about closure. So we'll dig into that next time. Okay. It's time. It's time to return to the phone. We couldn't last time because we needed a point in interfacing, but I expect this to be an interesting discussion. I don't know exactly what's waiting for us on the other side of that phone, but I do have some ideas. And I'm preparing for trauma with my yellow gardening gloves. What else do we have? Interfacing. Reaction speed. I think that's it. Okay, the trusty garden gloves. The sword. I got my flashlight. I got Kim with me. I've got all the armaments of my personal facade, which helps me maintain my personal security, or at least pretend to withstand what's coming. Let's do it. Okay, I believe I need to put a point into this first, right? Interfacing. Okay. Am I wearing anything that's detracting from interfacing? No. What about here? No. Okay. I think that's it. That's all we gotta do.
There's still some unused change in there. The machine waits for a number to be dialed.
Fuck it.
You close your eyes and put your index finger on the rotary dial, then pull down on the number, then move one up, and repeat the motion twice. Strange. This is not how you started before.
Keep dialing.
414447. The rotary dial feels cold from the sea air.
Keep dialing, Harry. We may need to do this.
1117361. Your fingers keep moving like a spider every time the ring rotates back with a little ring of metal, like a bell tolling.
There's more?
Yes. 451-67451.
How many fucking numbers are there in this?
Into some unknown place, far away from this island of matter and its telecommunication networks.
Finish it.
451. You have dialed God knows how many numbers. The headset has been waiting silently to relay a signal. Surely nothing can come of this, you think. But it does. A connection. An ultra-long distance call. Your air fills with a crackle, the wash of a strange ocean full of white noise. A little bird starts ringing in there, not like the local calling tone before. No, a small ring in a cage of distortion, far away. A distant network of phones.
If this is what I believe it is, the discussion that I expect to have about it afterwards, after we complete the encounter, is like, what therapy style would I use to address this with Harry? Because we've talked about like all kinds of different things that we could use with him: schema therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. I brought up Gestalt therapy. But this is like a specific kind of trauma to him. It's been central to all of the other discussions we've had about our relationship with Kim, this foundational lack of trust that other people are not going to abandon us, the difficulty trusting, that people can show us kindness or potentially want intimacy with us, and our inability to care for people that we actually want to care for. I even think the stuff with Kuno, Acel, Annette, Frita Girl especially, because there's nothing we can do for her at the moment, touches on this feeling of like, I couldn't protect this thing that was important to me, this relationship. So this is like quite central to almost all of our problems, including the use of substances to cope and potentially burying ourselves in work. So there's going to be a lot to unpack, I anticipate.
Calling in the night. The saddest sound in the world.
I love that it like cut the music out here so we can drench ourselves fully in the pain.
Both pitiful and terrifying. You feel your pulse rising with each ring. Calling still. The handset starts slipping from your sweaty palm. Your breathing is heavy.
Oh, this is interesting. We couldn't even hang it up if we wanted to. Our volition has been defeated. Hold yourself together. Keep your morale up. Volition has been, along with Inland Empire. Basically, this whole row of skills has really discouraged us from visiting this part of our history, which it has a very specific link to Gestalt therapy that I'll talk about further into this episode. But I find that fascinating. It's one of these moments of like game design and psychology marriage that is just perfect. That like at this point, we have betrayed the instincts of volition to the degree that like we're now unable to answer its intuition, which I kind of want to try because there's no fucking way I pass this. I shouldn't have said that. Watch me pass it. Let's see.
You can't.
Yeah, I do it.
Some strange force is keeping the headset glued to your hand. Your ear listening to the ring in the speaker.
Okay, that's good. I wanted that to happen because I was curious what it would result in.
Calling still. Then the ocean breaks. Out of the depths, a woman's voice emerges. Small. The dearest thing you've ever heard.
Oh no.
Hello?
Oh, Harry. Hello. She hums, her voice warm from sleep. What the fuck is this response? I guess we're gonna have to choose that. Who is this?
Dora. Who is this? She's back.
Dora. The name feels like a gift. A gift that was meant for you. To make it possible to live.
Oh, Harry. Take note of his posture here. This will become important later. His change in posture.
And fight.
Your voice is so beautiful.
No. It's you, isn't it? It's you.
We don't want to die anymore. I can't tell you who I am. I have a secret plan to win mankind 3,000 years of peace on this planet. I have to be ominously vague.
You're not ominous, Harry. You're drunk.
You only have 2, maybe 3 things left to say before the change runs out.
I'm not drunk or high. I'm just hurt. Why does it hurt to talk to you? Yes, this is true. This is our true feeling. I don't like that it only gave me the option to proceed with like a ridiculous response. There's silence. It's heavy as tin. The white noise howls. We only have 2, maybe 3 things left to say. Hey.
Do you know what time it is? So late here.
Sounds like she's looking for a clock on the nightstand.
It's 4 o'clock, Harry. You need to wake up in 2 hours.
We haven't been immediately rejected by her. Like, her tone of voice is obviously, like, distant, right? But it's still, there's still a closeness, like calling us Harry, um, setting some like grounding, you know, some boundaries here, like, but not immediately like, why the fuck are you calling me kind of thing, which is kind of what I don't know, I guess I anticipated because of the way Harry has built this up. Maybe this has been kind of a fabrication. I don't really like these replies though. They're all like joke replies. Why can't I just like be an earnest person in this situation? I mean, I guess this is the most straightforward thing. Where are you going in 2 hours?
To work.
Say nothing? Where?
The academy. When I went.
My job is sad and terrible. It has dead bodies in it. Why are we talking to them like we don't know them? This is like making a mockery of her. This is a little too confused. And this is too like concrete. Like it's not personable. Like it doesn't indicate our history.
No response, only a sigh. The connection crackles like burning paper.
What are you doing to yourself right now?
I don't know. I don't understand what's happening. That's legitimate. I genuinely don't know. I don't know why. I'm a little like, I'm curious to why our responses are so limited. We'll unpack this. Not that I would expect Harry to have the utmost clarity of mind or be able to summon the like most raw natural emotions in this moment. Like maybe this is just part of him panicking and not really knowing what to say. I don't know. I don't understand what's happening.
You need to stop. Harry, you're killing yourself.
I mean, I guess I really don't want to say any of this stuff. I want to talk about me. Who am I? You sound like you know me.
What do you want to talk about? We haven't talked about already.
I want to apologize to you for what we did. I want to show you that I've changed. I want to understand from your perspective what I did wrong because I was too much not myself to know what I was doing wrong.
This is bad. You feel your right hand on the handset cramping up with pain.
I can't say these. These are ridiculous. My heart hurts. I'm gonna have a heart attack.
Oh no. Please stop. Please, let's just not.
Damn it! I'm fine. This is perfect for the game as well. To not give me this opportunity. I'm in pain myself for Harry. Of course, the game would deny us like such direct closure. That would be too perfect. I guess we're hanging up. I can't say these. They're too insulting to us and to how real our feelings are.
Your hand isn't moving. The headset hisses in your ear with evil sadness.
What the fuck? Hang up.
Your hand isn't moving.
Hang up.
Your hand.
I don't want.
The headset
No.
in your ear.
Do not make me do this.
Sadness.
Do not make me make this worse. This was supposed to be our opportunity. This was supposed to be like our moment of dealing with the past. Where are you? You sound like you're in another
I'm
world.
in my rover, sleeping.
It won't let me go.
She does not answer anymore.
I'm the law. I'm a detective. I'm doing a case. There's a hanged man. Okay, maybe this will take us forward. Can you help me solve it? I need to solve it. I'm gonna solve it.
Harry.
Disconnect tone. The machine ran out of money.
I'm putting more in. This is not...
The number again. 26 pulls of the rotary dial. The machine eats the coin, and a terrifying ocean of distance rustles in your ear. In the middle of it, a familiar ring. Small, distorted.
Please give me another chance.
Calling. Calling.
Let it call.
Calling. Calling. Calling.
Come on.
Calling.
Please.
Calling.
Please.
It looks like she doesn't want to pick it up, Harry. Stop scaring her.
Why?
Come on, you know why.
But still, like, I feel like my own feelings are mirroring Harry's right now, and perhaps that's the intention. Especially for the character I'm playing, like, we are so desperately seeking these moments of redemption from ourself, from our past self. And yet I think the game wants me to feel as hopeless as Harry does in this moment. That, like, you can right all the wrongs you want in the world. You can solve the crime. You can save the kid. You can make new people love you. You can learn to trust others, but you can't go back and fix this. And I think we all have something like that. I know I'm thinking of something like that. Just let it ring.
Calling. Calling.
Harry, sleep.
Underneath it, she is naked and warm under a blanket.
I need to know who you are. Who are you? There's also a part of this where I'm like, I know. I feel like I know who this is, but does Harry genuinely not? I mean, he is an amnesiac. But he must know based on... I mean, I don't know that, actually. Like, based on our own exposure to the materials we have at our disposal, we could infer that there is a past relationship trauma, and I think it wouldn't be a stretch of insight to say, like, yeah, okay, this number I'm finding myself dialing is connected to that, but maybe he doesn't know. Who are you?
Please. I'm going to hang up now.
This is going to actually kill us.
Phone hanging up.
No!
Disconnect tone.
I will keep trying.
You dial the number again, as you've done many times. You remember it well now. 001 41 44 47 11 17 361 451 67 451 451. Calling, 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 and calling for who knows how long, but no one answers. You need to insert more money.
You want my money? Oh, poor Harry.
The cold metal is hard and hurts your knuckles. You look at them, turning purple.
You want more money now, huh? You want fucking money? Punch the phone again. Come on. You're doing something with this feeling, Harry.
It didn't give you any fun for that.
Shit.
Your hand is turning blue now. Blood
Basically
drips
dead.
to the ground.
No.
Bent metal, broken glass. Your path lies strewn with the broken forms of everyday objects. You are the destroyer, the bane of inanimate matter.
No, I'm just a disempowered individual trying to take my disempowerment out on everyday objects. Wow, that's actually a very perfect description of this.
Look, there's a discarded milk carton on the floor. Why don't you destroy that, too?
Yeah. Fuck you, milk carton. No, I actually feel sorry for the things I've destroyed. I'm sorry, milk carton. We get the opportunity to apologize to the milk carton. We're still on our apology tour. It's okay.
You're right. That's definitely not the behavior of a destroyer at all. That's just severe anger management problems and a disregard for property rights.
Oh my god. I was just telling you guys earlier how I like me as a person, I can't bring myself to do it. It's hard for me to like sublimate even violent things to inanimate things. Can we talk? Is there more?
A metal payphone under a yellow plastic dome. There's a bitter, caustic taste on the tip of your tongue as you look at the handset. Life is garbage.
Oh, fuck. Oh, man. I think we just did some serious psychological damage to ourselves. Which is not quite what I was expecting, but is probably better for the storytelling. And I will break my therapeutic approach down in just a moment. I wonder if Kim has any reaction to that.
Yes?
I don't think so. He's just silently observed. Okay. So, here's what I have to say about that exchange. I kind of thought that the game would serve us up an opportunity to communicate with this person who we have a traumatic history with. And that we would have some options to, like, you know, show some of the changes that we've made. Like, up until now, the game has, like, quite diligently tracked, like, lots of the changes that we've made. From the way that we communicate to people, from the values that we have, from the way we go about our interrogations and that sort of thing. And then it's typically served us up opportunities to demonstrate and reinforce those new perspectives, like with the date with Lillian. But this was different. It was not quite what I was expecting. And it is narratively appropriate, I think, just like I was saying, to not really let us tie up every loose end, because that's life as well. The perspective that I'm thinking of the most especially when I think about this stuff with the relationship with Harry, is Gestalt therapy. So one of the main pursuits of Gestalt therapy is its focus on unfinished business, right? The idea is that there are many things in our lives, traumatic things, unprocessed feelings, unmet goals, destroyed relationships, people we were hopeful we may turn into, but may have missed those opportunities or been in some mode of self-destruction and not been able to carry them out. And the idea is that the longer we go without addressing this unfinished business, we tend to experience an inner chaos. And we seek relief from that when we cannot deal with the unfinished business tangibly. Like, I can't go to this person and make them see that I am different. We tend to seek this out in symbolic ways. We look forward in new relationships. We self-destruct in other ways. Our issues with insecurity play out on public forums like social media, right? Like, this is how we would think of Gestalt these days. And those are in, like, minorly self-destructive ways. In extreme self-destructive ways, it leads to like substance abuse, right? Where the reservoir of undealt with traumas becomes so great that the main compulsion we have is to shut ourselves off from it, because it just feels so elongated and unable to be addressed. So the idea behind Gestalt is to rapidly identify and find resolution to these points of unfinished business, no matter what, right? So that we are like the most clear and honest version of ourselves, basically. And the difference between Gestalt therapy and some other approaches, a lot of the early psychology approaches were what you could call depth psychology. They were very focused on like going deep into the subconscious and what are the desires we're not aware of. It's a very Freudian idea. Even schema therapy, like what are the unattended to blueprints that we have about the world, our core beliefs that we may not even know are the driving mechanisms behind certain insecurities or acts of avoidance. Depth psychology is about bringing our awareness to these deeper layers and gathering information from them to gain insight and understand how to change. Gestalt therapy is the opposite of that. It's really interesting. It actually takes the perspective that the only thing that's really relevant is the present moment, because this is the moment you're experiencing right now. And even the stuff that you're experiencing in recall, you're bringing into the present moment, but we tend to obscure it. Fritz Perl, the founder of Gestalt therapy, described thinking of the past or thinking of the future, or like looking at the problems or solutions there as forms of escapism. That any retreat into the past or leap into the future is an escape from the present in some ways, because those dimensions are so much easier to obscure, to hide within, and to practice self-deceit. So his approach was all about like really focusing on present feelings, present emotions, and taking this unfinished business that's like, let's say in the past, and rapidly finding resolution in the present, so that we are not busy with the thoughts of, if I stayed in that relationship, I would have been happy. I would have been a better detective. I could be a happier person. I wouldn't be so disheveled and miserable and weak today, right? It's all of these like ideas that they're not reflecting who you presently are. They're reflecting who you wish you could have been, or who you feel like you can't be anymore, right? So it's about the present moment, and the techniques to bring us into the present moment are very interesting. And it's something that I've brought up as pretty applicable to Harry, and Claudia was the other character that I was thinking about this for. The idea is that a lot of the communication about our lives done verbally, because of the way our language works and the way our perception works, we tend to like practice little layers of self-deceit about ourselves. But our nonverbal communication is like quite subconscious. We don't always know we're doing it. And so it's, according to Gestalt therapy, a much more clear and honest battleground to interpret someone's feelings. So you're often looking at what someone is doing, not so much on what they're saying. And that's why I said pay attention to his change in posture, because Gestalt therapy is all about bringing awareness to, you know, when you said you were frustrated earlier, you covered your eyes. What made you want to do that? Well, I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to show my shame to people. Some of the other ways I don't want to show my shame to people is by avoiding these certain, you know, places or people or subjects or whatever it is. Like you're drawing connections based on starting with a nonverbal communication. His change in posture was like he like beetled up and became like hunched over and defensive, and he like lost his composure. Clearly he lost his composure. He was like really taking his anger out on the telephone booth. And so by bringing awareness to these things, we can get a better insight as to what the real feeling is. Many times I have used this kind of approach with people who struggle with emotional expression. So in lots of cases where people have been, severely traumatized, or they're just not super trusting of the therapeutic process yet, or they've just, grown up learning that emotional expressions are signs of weakness. Like they just have not, learned how to do that. They don't have the emotional vocabulary to discuss the depth psychology stuff. So I often rely on Gestalt therapy. I will, I'm talking to someone and they're like, yeah, nothing is wrong. I'm like, well, as you're saying that, like you're tapping your foot. As soon as you bring awareness to that, they usually stop. And now you've sort of entered this conversation with them. You're doing the therapy without having the classical therapy dialogue. I'm recognizing that there is a facade. You're telling me that there's nothing wrong, but your body language clearly shows that there is. And when I point that out, you can no longer hide from the idea that this bothers you because your instinct was to stop because it was seen. And that reveals the truth that you were trying to obscure this emotion. Gestalt therapy is very confrontational like that. Because the idea is that like everyone has a persona. There's certain things they show to the world. There's certain things that they obscure even to themselves. And while some approaches, like a Rogerian approach, person-centered therapy, is about like gently welcoming out this persona and engaging with it calmly. Gestalt therapy is about like, I'm gonna terrify your persona, this part of you that you use to obscure your true self and your true feelings, to the point where it retreats and the only thing that remains is you. And then we can finally have an honest conversation about what you feel and find out how to help you with that. Potentially, this is what we see with Harry, and why some of the options were so limited in this exchange is because this was the moment where we were so terrified to approach our honest feelings towards Dora. We've not fully formed them. We've not visited them yet. We've got perspectives like volition and Inland Empire, which are part of our persona, this need to hide from those things. We've not really welcomed our true self to the table enough that we needed our full defense, which is like the one opportunity I have to be honest and real with the person I have hurt the most in the world. And we can't fucking do it because this mechanism of self-defense is too strong. It's too ingrained in us to make a joke out of it, to be self-deprecating, to be vague and existential and, at other times political. Like these are the obfuscations of real emotions when it is too hard to face the emotions that we have. And so there have definitely been cases where that's the approach that I want to use, because the persona, the facade, is so ironclad around this person that they don't necessarily even know that they are obscuring it. In fact, I've had a case like that where the person said to me, well, I know I'm hiding what I'm feeling. I'm not trying to hide it from you, but I don't know what's there. I don't know how to bring this out. And Gestalt has a very interesting, and it can at times even be humorous, technique for this, which is called the exaggeration technique. Which is, if I see someone who is tapping their foot or is, holding their chin like this and kind of like pondering whatever it is, and you bring this to their awareness, typically it sounds like, when I asked you to think about that, you tend to touch your face here. You make them know that you've observed this, which puts us on a certain even level about what's real. And then you ask them to exaggerate that motion. I saw you tapping your foot a moment ago, and then as soon as I mentioned it, you stopped. Can you tap your foot again, but really exaggerate this motion? And you'll see them, tap their foot a little bit. I want you to really go, 10 notches up with this motion. And they start tapping their foot, and it's eventually they're stomping their foot. And it ignites all these other things for them. Their face tenses up, and they break eye contact, and they hunch their shoulders, and they tense. And it is nearly impossible, if you buy into that technique, not to be confronted with a much clearer idea of what you're feeling. So it is about evoking what you don't even know you're obscuring to yourself, because the tapping of the foot is an absent-minded distraction. But the intentional acceleration of that, right? You're so much closer to that feeling, and you can so much more clearly say, like, yeah, I'm angry that I can't control myself. I'm upset that you know more about this than I do. I'm frustrated because the people who are close to me in life, I'm not able to be intimate with them because I just don't have access to my feelings. And suddenly we are breaking from the facade more and more. And so with Klasia, that's kind of what I was thinking. She, especially in that last conversation that we had, there were all these, she was a very composed person. Very composed in her communication style, in showing the facade to us, right? Partially because that's just professionally developed skill of hers, right? Like to be a spy or whatever. But also because it's self-preservation. She has learned that this is how you prevent people from seeing the real you and taking advantage of that. And provided that she, whenever I say like, oh, this is the therapy style I would do with them, I'm assuming that the person wants to work on this, right? And if she were to come to me and say, sometimes I don't even know what's real. If I've been, living in some layers of misdeception from people so much that I'm not sure what I've bought into. That's because that's part of your facade, and the nonverbal communication, the Gestalt approach, you're not as able to manipulate this because it is nonverbal. It's instinctual. It's a part of your like natural personality that's like in a black box. And once you open it, you can start to interpret and gain insight into like, okay, this is real, this is not, this is amplified for performance, this is subdued out of fear. And so when I think about all of that stuff, and I think about Harry, and all of the things that he's been through, his unfinished business would be a big subject of the work that we do. This is the big one, this relationship. Like I said, it's central to so many of our other problems. It's central to our need to be loved. And if we cannot get love from this person because we've burned that bridge, maybe we can get love by being the best cop in the world. Maybe we can get the feeling of being loved by apologizing to everyone. Maybe we can get the feeling of being loved by being as non-controversial as we possibly can and resorting to the most boring option every time because we're so terrified of people rejecting us that's what we choose, right? I feel like this is the big thing for him. Now, when I say resolving unfinished business, sometimes that means like, okay, can you have a conversation with this person and find closure? That's kind of what I thought we would be able to do. But this is almost more compelling. We do not get an opportunity to show with such clarity the true feelings that we have. We weren't able to be the sorry person to the most important person in our previous life. And so you have to ask the question, okay, well, if I can't get my business finished by addressing the person directly, how can we find closure in some other way? This is about rapid resolution of the anxiety we carry around, not completion of the project, so to speak. So part of the process of therapy would be like, okay, if the things that you are left with are still feelings of abandonment and shame and a struggle with intimacy, then dealing with that unfinished business may be seeking some of those out in other outlets, right? Developing intimacy with someone new. Learning to let go of the need to be loved by accepting your flaws and not always having to be a perfectionist. Right? You want to find out what are the things that are going to give you a sense of closure if you cannot get it from this person. Unfinished business does not mean we have to deal with every single, problem that's a loose thread in our life. It is simply about finding outlets to seek closure so that we are no longer confused or overridden by this inner tension when we make new decisions, right? So that we're not obfuscating our struggle with intimacy by going and getting drunk. So that we are not exercising authority through our profession because we were not able to gain the respect of someone who, we see as an authority over our heart or whatever, right? So many dimensions, so many layers to dig into with this kind of subject. The other major way to deal with unfinished business, and this is one of my all-time favorite techniques, is the empty chair. I may have talked about this one before. I've certainly talked about it in other projects outside of Disco Elysium, which is such a simple idea, but it takes a certain training to do it effectively, which is you have your client sit across from an empty chair and you are facilitating a dialogue between them and the subject of unfinished business. For Harry, because he cannot communicate with his ex-wife, because he cannot summon the raw, clear emotions that he has for her while she's on the phone. He's too terrified. The persona is too strong. We can visit that subject in therapy through this kind of role play by having him talk to the empty chair. Like, imagine she's, in the chair. What are some of the things that you want to say to her? I want to tell her that I'm sorry. And it always starts like that. They respond to you and you have to kind of redirect them and say, don't tell me. I want you to tell her. It's kind of easing them into the role play. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for, what I put you through. And I'm sorry that I can't even explain to you how sorry I am because I'm so fucked up from this. What do you imagine she would say in response to that? Imagine she would just be silent, or she would say, Harry, please. What does that bring up for you? It makes me feel like I'm never going to get her to understand. Why don't you tell her that? I feel like I feel like I'll never get you to understand how I feel about this. And you just kind of go down this path. And something about, you know, being able to voice these things, and we're not talking about the past here. We're not sitting here talking about, well, what was your relationship like and what are the main pain points? Like, we're not doing depth psychology. This is present moment stuff. The person is not here, but the emotions are. What you're feeling is present tense. It's direct, it's confrontational, but it fucking works. I have done the empty chair with people who are grieving, who have things that they did not get to say to the person that they lost, who said things that they regret before they lost them. I've done the empty chair in the recovery space between a person and who they were in their addiction. When the person has worked enough on their sobriety and they've demonized themselves and who they were and the things that they did and the people that they've wronged. And what we're seeking in that process is empathy, a self-empathy. Because so often when you have a person talk to a version of themselves, you'll hear them say like, yeah, I hate what you did. I hate the way that you made me to my family members. I hate the ways that you ruined my life. Especially if it's another version of themselves, I'll have them switch places. And I'll say, okay, I want you to respond to that. And typically they can summon the perspective of who they were and say, look, I didn't know what I was supposed to do with my life. And I just felt so broken and rejected that this was the only way for me to not feel that. And then you have them go back. And as the sober person, like, okay, I understand that, but it's time, you know, I still don't want to be you anymore. I've moved on from that. And then you have them go back and forth. And without fail in this process, what starts off as a person ready to attack themselves and demonize, when they hear from their own past perspective what it sounds like to be attacked, and then to respond to that, they cannot help but start to empathize a little more with who they were. And usually that conversation ends with, you know, I do regret, you know, the person that you were, but I am also I'm sorry for what you went through, what we went through, that made you want to do that. And hopefully I'm doing something better now for us. And it's just this beautiful moment of healing. Like, it's so powerful to deal with loss, to deal with healing your self-image. I've even done it with people who are, you know, in the midst of a debate between, do I want to keep trying to be sober or do I want to go relapse right now? Well, I want you to speak to the part of you that wants to stay and the part of you that wants to go, and just have them have that dialogue. And as the therapist, it's a very fascinating process because you are facilitating this, but you're really not like doing much. You're not there to like interpret the conversation. The most you're doing is giving direction and prompting. When you hear yourself say that and you listen to the pain in your voice, what does that make you feel? It makes me feel horrible. Tell that to them. Tell them, when I hear the pain in your voice, I feel awful. And then you have them say that. So that's kind of what you're doing. It's pretty hands-off. You're kind of just navigating this because all of the work is done internally for them. It's wonderful. It's absolutely one of my favorite techniques. It's highly transformative to many processes. And it's the part of Gestalt therapy that I like the most because it is like it's not as confrontational from my end. Like me pointing out, I saw you tapping your feet, or, right? Whenever I point something out that you seem uncomfortable with, you tend to squint your eyes. People don't always, you have to have a very trusting relationship between you and your client to be so confrontational like that. And so I've never done it like, it's not a first session thing, right? I'm always like looking to establish some rapport first and establish that trust that like, look, part of this process is holding up the mirror. And that mirror is going to be objective. It's an unbiased observation for me to say that when this discomfort comes up, you squint your eyes. It's not like I'm adding on to that. And I think you're doing that because you don't like what I say. That's not what you're saying. You're making the observation and letting them interpret the discomfort. What did that feel like? And if they ever go into, well, it reminds me of when I was a kid and people would criticize me. You say, but are you a kid right now? No, because they've retreated into the past. So in the Gestalt perspective, you want to bring them back to the present. It's like the counter, total opposite to the classical depth psychology. It's like, yes, this is all about your childhood. And Gestalt's like, fuck that. This is about right now. Right now is the only thing that matters. So it's fun for that. If you want to see more of this style and you want to see the inventor of it, the master of it, Fritz Perl, use it, go on YouTube and look up the Gloria sessions. Basically, every therapist is going to be familiar with this. In school, you watch these sessions. There was a woman named Gloria who participated in these recorded therapy sessions with some of the great classical therapists. Fritz Perl, I believe that Carl Rogers is in there, Albert Ellis, and Aaron Beck, who was founder of cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's like a session with Gloria using these different perspectives. Carl Rogers' approach is very warm, very person-centered, very non-confrontational at all. And the way he deals with the facade is very different to how Fritz Perl deals with it. His is much more confrontation. And before they do the session, they sort of break down what their approach is going to be. So it's great. It's fantastic stuff. It's pretty fundamental to, how you learn about being a therapist is watching the masters do it, basically. And then practicing it on your own. So I feel like this would be central work for Harry. Especially in a situation like this where we say, all right, that didn't go as planned. This is still unfinished. The storyline is not complete. In fact, we probably just made it worse. How are we going to deal with that unfinished business? And I think that that's going to be part of the rest of the journey of this playthrough. I can even say for myself, me getting into the same kinds of feelings that Harry was, where I'm just like, but I want to say something better than this. I want to be more honest, but it's so hard to communicate your true feelings to someone that you've hurt. And the game putting a scenario like that directly reminds me of times in my life where I have also felt similarly unable to communicate what I truly felt to people. And the frustration that causes, and the no going back feeling it results in, and this uncomfortable, it's slipping away. I can do everything. I can solve the crime. I can improve myself. I can dress better. I can work out. I can do all of these things, but convince this person that I'm not who they remember me as. Because that's just not really for you to do. It's for them. It's heavy stuff. It's heavy stuff, and yeah, I'm actually kind of glad it went a different way than I expected, because I think it has helped us identify more about Harry than if we did get a straight shot at making things right. And who's to say? Maybe we will at some point. Please don't tell me if we do. I know there's a lot of people who are eager to see, you know, some of the best parts of this playthrough that they know are coming up, but yeah. Keep your suggestions vague, let's say, so that we can all enjoy, you know, the emotional payoff when we do eventually reach it. Okay, Kim. now it's time. Now it's time for me to break from the persona of Brady, the honest therapist, and back into the deranged lunatic who is doing this role play, which is also carried through in my nonverbals. All right, Kim. You know what? I don't care about that anyways. We've got bigger things to deal with. We've got a murder to solve. It's time to go solve this case. Are you ready? Let's go talk to those fucking kids on the ice again, or let's go bust down this church door and investigate. That's what we're gonna get into next time.